Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Okay, in this video today, we are going to be talking about 2022 interior design trends. I like trends. I view trends as ideas that you can maybe bring into your home and sort of add to your existing signature style. So I'm not a trend chaser necessarily, but I do think, I like to keep my ear to the ground and sort of see what's happening. As I said, those are great ideas that you can maybe bring into your home. So some trends are awesome and you can incorporate into your own signature style. Some design trends you can wave to as they pass you by, and that is okay too. So let's get going and talking about some amazing interior design trends for 2022. And also I will touch on that there are certain articles that have talked about different trends around sustainability and paying people a living wage. I'm not including those in this video because to me, those are not trends. Those should be like just a paradigm shift in terms of how we look at interior design and decor. Yeah, so they're not really trends. They're just like the way things need to be going forward. So I did talk about sustainability in my trends video last year. That is still a trend. But again, I hope it's a shift, not a trend. Now, the first interior design trend that I'm gonna be talking about for 2022 actually has a lot to do with today's video sponsor, which is Intel. Now, Intel has really raised the bar with their new Intel Evo platform, and they are really doing a great job at providing tools that creatives like myself or other professionals need in order to do their job in this new world of work. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but in the last couple of years, work has changed. Everything's a little bit different than it was, a lot different than it was a couple of years ago, right? And people are looking for more flexible tools that work at home or a co-working space or a coffee shop or sometimes in the office. Or if you're like me, I'm always going to flooring places, stone places, furniture stores, whatever I need to do to film content and see what's new in the latest trends in interior design. And my Intel Evo laptop is with me everywhere I go. So because I bounce around town a lot, always going to different places, battery life is actually really, really important to me. So I need to make sure that I have a laptop that has enough battery life to be able to last the entire day. And I am happy to say that my Intel Evo laptop lasts me the whole day with no problems. And because I'm really bad at charging my laptop, because I never remember, I'm really bad for that, I can usually get a few hours of charge with just as little as a half an hour charging in the morning. The Intel Evo laptop also boots up in about a second, which is great because if I go to a different store and I want to show them something and I need my laptop to be there when I need it, and my Intel Evo laptop boots up so quickly that I'm able to show people what I'm talking about and move on really quickly. Also happy to say things like photo editing and video editing work great on this laptop. All those different thumbnails that you see where I'm going I use a web-based tool that's really easy, and I'm always making thumbnails, especially if I've got 1 or 2 videos going up every week. I'm always doing photo editing, and I'm usually doing it on the go. So thank you, Intel, for sponsoring this video and for making tools that help me be able to do the creative work that I love. Thanks again. Now let's get back to the rest of those 2022 interior design trends. Okay, next up, I'm calling it the return of the home office. So I'm actually old enough to remember the 90s where everybody had sort of like a computer room in their house. Not everybody, but a lot of people did. You had like a home office. That was like a place where mom and dad had their stuff, and that was like where they had their little home office. And that's where the computer was, because computers were big enough that they needed their own room pretty much. And the printer and the whole, the modem and the whole thing. It was the 90s, right? So that was a time that we had like that home office space. And then work changed. It became more mobile, and that made sense. Now we are seeing a trend with this new hybrid workplace that is becoming the new standard going forward for many workplaces across the world, which is sometime in office, sometimes at home. And the temporary solutions that we all came up with last year, where it was working at the dining room table, working at your kitchen island. I know somebody, by the way, who for a year and a half during the pandemic worked on a bar stool on their kitchen island. Ugh, the ergonomics. Could you imagine? Those temporary solutions are not going to cut it anymore. We need permanent places to do our work rather than sort of feet on the coffee table, sitting on the couch, puttering away on a laptop. That may have worked pre-pandemic, but these temporary solutions that we've kind of made work in the pandemic are now giving way to a full-on office experience where you are able to put a lot of the stuff that you need to do your job. So things that we're seeing more of would be like ergonomic chairs that actually look attractive because people want to actually incorporate them into their home. Those are becoming more important. Really big, beautiful, stylish desks. I'm seeing so many more stylish desks show up in mainstream retailers. Well, before we didn't see them nearly as much as I think we do now. There's some really, really cool desks that are out there. I'll link to some in the description. Things like good storage options, things like a little, like a recycling bin or garbage bin, like really attractive ones so you can actually create a really beautiful space in a home office. We're seeing more and more of that, and I'm seeing so many more kind of photos of people doing really gorgeous, beautiful spaces inside their home where they're cordoning off sort of a a space to do their own home office. So that is definitely a trend that I'm gonna see coming forward. Now, some of you might be thinking, I don't have a whole nother room just to devote to my office. And this is also, I'm gonna call this trend 1B, and that is the use of multifunctional spaces, right? People bringing in spaces where they're sort of creating sections of their existing, maybe their apartment or their small home, where they're able to incorporate a desk, again, beautiful chairs, beautiful desks, and just sort of a really beautiful space that you're also able to integrate into the rest of your living area. I think that the hybrid model where people are going to be doing a lot more work at home is going to be something that we're going to see long after this pandemic is hopefully over. Okay, next interior design trend is going to just be the color green. Green is a beautiful color, and it has often been a color that has been neglected, I think, in interior design, but it is a really gorgeous color that you're gonna see more and more of. Now, if you saw my paint video where I talked about PPG, Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, and Behr, they all selected some variation of a green paint. I think the reason that we're seeing green trend so much is just the real need to bring nature into the home. So we've seen this trend towards bringing in more natural elements into the space, so wood and stone. This is not something that is a new trend. That is something that has been happening for many, many years, but bringing in the color green is just another really great way to bring more of a natural element into the home. So I'll show you what I'm talking about, because sometimes these shades of green are not necessarily like whoa green, like you can sort of incorporate green in a way that feels a little bit more like a neutral. So I'm gonna show you some paint swatches so you can see what I'm talking about. So here we've got the color Stonington Gray. You can see this is a gray. This is a gray paint. It just reads gray, that's obvious. But now I want you to show you Benjamin Moore's Gray Cashmere. So you can see this would be an example for me of like a gray green. So I put the gray cashmere next to the Stonington Gray so you can really see that green undertone coming through with the gray cashmere. So it definitely reads a little bit cooler. I think it's just gray enough that a lot of people sort of read it as a neutral, and it's easy to sort of work into the home. So these are the types of greens that are becoming increasingly popular. Now, if you really want to go in on the 2022 green trend, then I would recommend these sort of green beige combinations, because these ones are the ones that are super, super trendy and just really, really popular right now. So you can see this is a beige sample from Benjamin Moore as well. And then I want you to show next to October Mist, which is Benjamin Moore's color of the year. And I think when you can see these beige undertones, it's a lot warmer, especially when compared to the sort of green grays that we talked about. So again, these read very much similar to a neutral, where you've got that beige, but it's just got that little bit of color, that little bit of pigment in it that is going to read very natural and actually, in my opinion, quite timeless. Green often goes so well with brown, just because those are the colors that you see very often in nature. So pairing brown and green together is always gorgeous. I think you cannot go wrong with something green in your home, maybe one of these green paints and something like a really beautiful tan leather couch. Just amazing, very on trend for 2022. And I think going forward, nature is just timeless, and you can't beat nature. I'm sorry, she knows what she's doing. Okay, next 2022 interior design trend is lime wash and plaster walls. You've probably seen these and maybe not even known exactly what they are, because I know when I first saw them, I was like, what are they doing to those walls? That is not a matte paint. There's something special going on there. Lime wash paints are becoming increasingly popular. What they are, if you've seen like these walls that just read as really lightly textured, but they almost look like plaster, which some of them are if you're using an actual plaster, they just read as really matte, but quite imperfect, and just really have a gorgeous sort of texture to them. They create a space that feels a little bit rustic, a little bit homey, but it just has that sort of like timeless quality to it that is just absolutely gorgeous. So it's not something that's going to read really flat like you would a typical paint. This is something that's going to have a lot more texture to it. Now, I've kind of lumped these together, but clay, or it's sometimes called Venetian clay or Roman clay, they're a little bit different than lime wash. So lime wash is actually applied with a paintbrush, and it creates something with just a little bit more fluidity and some motion to it. But it's actually a special type of paint, a lime wash paint, that is then brushed directly onto your walls, as opposed to something like a Roman clay, which is used with a putty knife. So there's an actual plaster, and that is going to create much more of a look of like plaster directly applied onto a wall. Lime wash just has a little bit more of a softer bit of movement to it. Both are gorgeous. Both are very on trend. If you've seen like those photos from the Zara campaign, I did like the Buy This Not That from Zara a little while ago. The photos from that campaign are absolutely gorgeous. It just has this like, this really lived in, a little bit rustic, very textured, almost feels like you're in like a sun-baked villa sort of vibe to it, especially if you go with those warmer tones from the Roman clay or the lime wash. Absolutely stunning. Definitely a beautiful way to make your home sort of feel a little bit lived in, a little bit rustic, a little bit imperfect, but just really effortless and timeless and gorgeous. Definitely a type of wall treatment that you're going to see a lot more of in 2022. Okay, next up on my list of interior design trends for 2022 is statement marble. Okay, so natural stone, I love natural stone more than your average person. I'll be honest, I can spend all day at a stone place and just wander under the slabs because I just absolutely love natural stone. There's just, as I said earlier, nature does it best. And there is just something so gorgeous about natural stone. But specifically, what is really on trend is statement marble. Now, I will say that I think natural stone is a timeless material. If you saw my video on timeless design, you know that natural materials, I think that they stand the test of time a lot better than man-made materials. That's personally just what I think. But I do think that the statement marble trend is a specific trend outside of just the overall love of natural stone, which, you know, to me is timeless and, you know, always gorgeous. So what is statement marble? So this is not your kind of Carrara marble that you're going to see that has been very popular. We have that really clean white marble or black or a different sort of shades of marble, but the Carrara marble has been very, very popular for a while. I have Carrara marble in my home. That table back there is Carrara marble. It's just a really beautiful, very simple sort of white stone, not a lot of movement, not a lot of contrast, but it's gorgeous and it's timeless. And it's just kind of that really just sort of elegant white marble that, you know, you probably have seen a bunch of times. Statement marble is just marble that has a lot of movement, a lot of color, a lot of contrast, right? So things like Calcata Viola is a really good example of a statement marble that I'm seeing all over the place. It is a particular type of marble where it is mostly white. Every slab is a little bit different. You can get ones with lots of movement and ones with very little. So it is a really beautiful white marble that has like a lot of sort of red wine or deep purple sort of tones and different veining throughout the whole slab. So a lot of movement, a lot of contrast. It is going to make a huge statement. So typically what we're seeing is in a lot of minimalist or contemporary spaces. So usually seeing a lot of really quiet elements. So it might be like really beautiful sort of hardwood floors, as well as really gorgeous sort of simple cabinetry, and then a pop of a marble that is going to absolutely be stunning and a real showstopper. These marble slabs are honestly like they're works of art. So they're really going to make a statement and just sort of have such a real presence in their home and create a fabulous focal point for any kitchen or bathroom or anything like that. We're seeing these all over the place, seeing vanities or sinks that are made out of these gorgeous marbles, seeing coffee tables made out of marble, seeing kitchen islands made out of marble, lots of different places where you can use these big statements. The hood fan, like cladding the hood fan in these statement marbles, so popular right now. And you just see it over and over again. Now, I will be honest, is this a timeless trend or is this something that's going to be around for a little bit and then fade away? I was actually talking to someone at the stone place the other day and he was saying, I think it's a trend. I think designers are doing it because it's really fancy and funky and eventually it'll go away. I do kind of agree with that. I think as a general rule though, I will still stand by that natural materials are timeless. And so I don't think something like a Calcata Viola is going to look incredibly dated because there is a timeless quality in a beauty of a natural stone. I really do believe that. But there is something to be said for it's a very particular look. So if you're renovating your place or building a new place that you plan on renting or reselling, if you're just doing a flip or something, I would not recommend doing this because I think this is a very particular look that suits a very particular person's taste and it might not necessarily be for everybody. But if you plan on doing it and you love natural stone as much as me, consider statement marble somewhere in your home for 2022 and beyond. Okay, so next interior design trend for 2022 is going to be curves. Now, curves actually made my list from last year and they're just as trendy now as they were then. Interior design trends don't move necessarily always as quickly as fashion. I think people think they do, but the thing is people don't redecorate their house nearly as often as they flip their wardrobe, right? Like people don't renovate that quickly. Anyway, curves. Curves are still super popular. They are very popular now. They were popular then. So we're seeing in places like curved furniture, you're seeing like armchairs that become in this really like beautiful sort of angled backs to them. We're seeing curved seats. You're seeing the Mario Bellini sofa, like that is still everywhere. You're seeing archways being used, you know, the squiggle mirrors, the squiggle lamps, squiggle candlesticks, squiggle everything, which I don't really care for, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, there's a lot of curves that are happening in design. Some of it is timeless, I'll be honest. I think an archway is timeless, generally. It's the other stuff around it that oftentimes gets dated. Here's just a general rule in life. If the Romans did it and it still looks good, then it probably is still gonna look good now in sort of a contemporary space. Just always remember, of course, that your like house in the suburbs of like Phoenix or something is not a, you know, Roman Colosseum, so don't get too carried away. But I would say as a general rule, if they did it then and it's as beautiful now, it's probably fairly timeless. But overall, you're seeing curves both in these beautiful sort of contemporary spaces more and more, but also creeping into more and more furniture. I'll also say that if you saw my video for interior design styles, you'll know that postmodern is something that has really taken hold of the interior design. The 80s and 90s are back. They're back in fashion and they are back in design. And there are some pieces that are very 80s, very 90s. I mean, the squiggle mirrors at IKEA, I had them in 1998. Apparently they're back now, right? I think we're just gonna see more and more as the 80s and 90s are popular in fashion, so too you will see it in interior design. And sometimes in like unfortunate ways. Okay, my last interior design trend for 2022 is antiques and thrifting. Now I know some of you are gonna say, I've been antiquing and thrifting for years. Well, that's great, cool, like that's fine. I think it's a trend that a lot of people are going to be doing more and more. I personally am not a big fan, but that's just my own personal taste. It's just not really suiting my sort of interior design style, but it has suited a lot of people. And I think part of this is being driven by several factors. One is, again, that push I mentioned at the beginning around sustainability. I think people are becoming more and more conscious of buying pieces that they are probably going to use for 6 months, get sick of, and then throw in the garbage. And that is a good thing, that people are becoming increasingly aware of how that is not sustainable. So I think the thrifting is really popular because a lot of people are looking for not just buying sustainable fabrics and sustainably harvested woods, which is like super, super important, but also thinking, you know, what's better than buying new products that are sustainably harvested is just buying stuff that's been sitting in someone's basement for the last 40 years. And I 100% agree with that. So I think thrifting is becoming increasingly popular. The other reason is because interior design styles like maximalism and grand millennial and cottagecore are becoming more popular for certain people. I have tried to pretend like those design styles don't exist, but unfortunately a lot of people seem to like them. I think I said before that there's like 3 women in Brooklyn that made the grand millennial style and that no one actually does it in their home. I still kind of stand by that. I have never really seen it done a lot, but you know, apparently it's happening and maximalism is here and people are really, really excited about these design styles. And a part of that is thrifting, is finding products that found in a thrift store, things that you found from, you know, Grammy Graham's basement, and you're bringing it back into your own house and you're making it new again, and sort of bringing in and mixing in traditional styles with different sort of new or modern or contemporary pieces as well. So I think there's an interesting mix of sort of taking a lot of traditional items and then mixing it with some modern pieces to create something that looks kind of interesting and really cool and that a lot of people really love. Again, it's not my style, but that's okay. I like a lot of things. I can appreciate design that is not necessarily my own particular design style. That's healthy and natural to appreciate art in all of its forms, even if it's not art that you particularly necessarily enjoy or want to put in your own home. So I can appreciate what people are trying to do here, and I think it's probably a trend that you're going to see more and more of, both because of the sustainability, but also because there is this real pushback towards minimalism, these really curated sort of museum style spaces, and people moving more towards a maximalist aesthetic where you want to see people put a lot more personality and storytelling in their space that really reflects them. And I think people are seeing that more and more. They're wanting that more and more. And I think this thrifting vintage sort of trend sort of factors into that. So I think that is why it is trending for 2022 and probably will be going forward for a while. Okay, that's it for me for today, guys. I'm gonna link to a real throwback. I'm gonna link to my 2021 design trends. Let's see, you can watch that video to see, was I right? Was I wrong? I mean, I kind of sort of remember what I said in that video, but you know, it's been a year. So yes, go check out that video. A lot of what I said then is still around now. So feel free to go check that out and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks, bye.